So focus on the vertical diffusion cell and the flow-through cells. What are some, common mistakes people can make when using, these two types of diffusion cells in IVRT or IVPT study?
I think we've had some excellent talks this morning, and some very nice demonstration videos, which I think were fantastic. The one thing that I'll maybe briefly say, and then perhaps John and Ahmed, the others can speak, Dr. Murthy. One, I think, consideration is the equilibration of the system. You'll note, everyone who presented demonstration videos can emphasize this point too, that those videos were done for the purpose of just quickly being able to move through the key steps and illustrating, some potential techniques. But the actual sequence, it's really essential that the system be equilibrated, and that equilibration, I think, is the one common mistake that sometimes may not get enough attention when people are implementing that part of the protocol. So it's very helpful. It's really recommended. I strongly recommend get the diffusion cell set up. This is whether it's IVRT or IVPT, and let the entire system come to equilibration prior to initiating the study, where that really is the point at which the dose is applied on the cell. Perhaps others might like to comment.
Yeah,
probably the most common request we get when people are working with their equipment and they're having issues is that fluid is disappearing from somewhere in the cell. And many people, when they first start using the cells, don't realize that it's possible for fluid to escape out through the periphery of the membrane. So ideally, the joint in a frond cell or even a side-by-side shell should be wrapped with parafilm, and fluid can also evaporate out of the sampling. So a new user will say, well, our cell is leaking, and in the case of an injected cell, particularly there's no drops or whatever on the bench, although that sometimes happens. And it's because of evaporation. So new users need to be aware of
that. I may add also. Go ahead, Ashwin.
Oh, I just want to add something about it, that I have got sometimes questions from end users saying that, oh, we see a lot of air bubbles generated once we start the test, because when they started, they are getting it at a room temperature hydroorganic solvents, and then which is not deaerated properly or not vacuum filtered. And once they start seeing it after 30 minutes or after 1 hour, sometimes when the test started, they see the air bubbles and then they say, oh, can you help me? Why this is happening? So we simply replied saying that, you know what, you need to vacuum filtered your receptor solution before you fill it into the receptor chamber. And once it's reached to the equilibration, check properly before you apply your dose and start the study.
Yeah, I may add to Ashwin is that in most of the vertical diffusion cell procedures, a lot of steps are very objective. I'm sorry, a lot of steps are very subjective, and it depends on the judgment of the analyst or the operator in completeness or success of each step. For example, dosing, it is very subjective. Is it done in a correct way or not? For example, air removal of air bubbles and the degassing of the receptor solution, as well as fitting the donor chamber to the receptor chamber and ensuring that there is no any leakage or air that can permeate through the periphery of the membrane or periphery of skin. So a lot of this step is very subjective and it depends on the judgment of the analyst, and the technical skill of the analyst to determine the success of each of this step. A lot of runs is done by, I would say, juniors or mentees or young scientists who does not have some of the experience. So I would say mentorship is very important in order, and training is very important to rule out all sorts of errors in each step and to make sure that each step is done correctly. And I found this is a way to produce consistent results and avoid a lot of zero errors.
Yeah, I completely agreed. There is no royal road to this except to have your analyst trained very well and have a very robust training protocol. All the issues that you listed are all related to proper training of the individual and a proper protocol for using IVRT apparatus.